Hey there, I'm Miska and welcome to HitScan. I'm looking at some Valorant ability combos today, and the main rule for this video is that I wanted to find some ability combos that were cross characters, so not the same character using two of their own abilities. So these are two different agents using one ability each to combine them into one really cool, clever combo. Some of these I've seen happen a lot in game and some of them not as much. So there's a bit of a mix between things you can do all the time and then some that are just a bit more special and a lot more flashy as a result. Let's begin, and it's kind of with a classic. This actually happened on stream to me the first time, but I've done this a lot, or at least tried to set it up a lot, with varied results to say the least, and that's Orbital Strike combined with Sage Slow Orb. This is just a really solid combo if you have a Brimstone ultimate and want to either deny a plant or you think that there's a lot of people rushing one on the same site. If it's just one or two people, then maybe it's a bit overkill, but it's so overwhelming that it's difficult to deal with. So the setup is of course just shooting at that Slow Orb, and then right around the time where you feel like that's landed and caught those people that you wanted to catch in the slow, you throw out the Orbital Strike, and I prefer throwing it out a little bit behind where the orb landed. So if enemies are right on the edge of it towards the back, then when they back off, they don't back out of the Orbital Strike as well. So you overlap the circles, I guess you could say, a little bit, but not too much. This is a good general rule of thumb for the next few abilities as well, but as you can see in this case, I managed to get an entire ace with that thing. Oh my, what the fuck? I think I might have included that in a video here previously, but I wanted to show that off again just because it's just a good clip of mine and I enjoy those occasional insane ability combos that just work out perfectly. Next up, a much simpler one that you can actually apply all the time, and that's the Incendiary or Molly from Brimstone and the Aftershock from Breach. All in all, why this is so strong is that the Molly actually covers quite a big area, but if you don't know which side of a doorway an enemy is waiting behind, then you can always just use the Aftershock on the other side that you're not checking. And especially if it's a Brimstone Incendiary and Aftershock, it's so difficult to do anything about it because it's just so much damage. It's kind of the same principle of just using an overwhelming amount of damage in a way that forces the enemy to sort of do something. In this case, we used it in the bottom of the A side of Ascent, but I do this a lot playing split in top mid, just making sure that the Molotov kind of covers the door and that area so you can't cross from left to right, and then Aftershocking either left or right depending on where you think they normally play and that sort of thing. If you play this right and you Aftershock the correct side as well, you can always use that Aftershock as kind of a flash as well, so it just covers this entire doorway visually when that Aftershock goes off. There's loads of ways to secure area in Valorant or just be able to set up a push, but I like this a lot because sometimes you can just get the kill from the ability without really doing anything. Not as flashy as the first one, but the next one definitely is. This is my favorite one by far, and this is the Paint Shell and Fault Line combo. Now that's of course involving Raze and Breach. So this actually happened to me playing Ascent early on, just a few days after the game had launched, and ever since then I always try to recreate this if I'm looking to play either of these characters with my teammates, because it's just such a fun one to go for. So here's how you do it on Ascent, but you can do this really on any map so long as you find a decent spot. And the key here is that the barrier for the enemy team has to be pretty close and accessible in almost a direct sight line in just a split second or so after the round starts, just so they might really go for a rush there. In this case, we set up the Raze nade so it'll bounce and land right here, so it'll bounce on this wall and then land and explode right around this area. Now, sometimes people just throw Raze nades at the start of a round like this to try and go for a kill if someone tries to dedicate to an early rush, but in this case we also have Breach to set up the slow with the Fault Line, and that's really where the ability combo goes from being something that you see a lot to something that's really special when it works out. Luckily, after trying it a lot, I got one really good clip of getting a 3k with it right here. So the Paint Shell goes in and the Fault Line comes out, they all get slowed, and that nade does so much damage there, and there's even another person in there still that probably also took a bit of damage and eventually goes down as well. Really fun thing to go for in your games. Another good spot to go for this could be around A near the ramp if you're defending on split. This is obviously a lot easier to go for if you're defending, but you could also do it if you think someone's holding a corner, stun right behind them and then nade the corner, so if they back off they get stunned and killed by the nade, and if they just stand in the same spot they also just get taken out by the grenade, allowing you for a quick quick push. But really, so long as you've got a good raised nade spot that you can do really early or maybe even right at the start of a round, you can probably set up a fault line combo with it, because the fault line range is actually pretty insane. It goes across the map on most maps. Really recommend going for this one. This is definitely a fun one. Up next, a much more common one that you guys are probably gonna snore at a little bit, but we got dark cover plus curveball. Now, the reason as to why I wanted to mention this is that there's a dynamic in Valorant around smokes and around Molotovs. So generally, from Counter-Strike and a lot of other games, a Molotov or a smoke means that an area has been denied to either be taken or just held, depending on if you're attacking, defending, and what you're looking to do exactly. A smoke might make you not watch an angle at all because you're thinking that the enemy can't see you and won't push it. And in a similar way, a Molotov surely blocks off that path so no one can run through. Well, normally Phoenix runs through his own Molotov a lot because he can heal through it, and Omen will generally teleport through his smokes. But with Phoenix, you can really get around the weakness of the curveball by throwing the flashbang so it pops just outside the bubble. If you do it right, it'll look something like this, and it'll be very difficult for the enemy to predict where that flash is coming from. And even if you don't get the kill, just having them fall back as a result of something more unexpected happening rather than the typical Omen teleport into another smoke or anything like that, this can be a good way to save Omen's Paranoia for a bit later. And in general, just getting around that curveball weakness can be really important with Phoenix, so I recommend this. It's so easy to do. Dark cover is a free ability as it's a signature ability, so you always have that one charge, and a curveball you're probably buying regardless on Phoenix. Next up, another really useful one that I recommend for those really quick aggressive pushes, especially if you're playing with a friend of yours that you know is a bit more experienced in Valorant and really wants to just go for frags, and that's Paranoia plus a lear. Now, there's no fancy usage really with these abilities, but it's more the way you can really work together with them. So the weakness of lear right now, as of making this video, is that the range of it is quite poor. You can't really throw it out that far. Now, you can throw it out through walls, so it's obviously quite safe and such, but that means that sometimes you'll miss out on covering certain angles, such as here on Bind. But with Paranoia, you can really get around that quite well, and you can set up your lear in maybe an even better spot than it would have been otherwise. No need to peek anything, as Paranoia takes care of those blind spots that you couldn't quite cover, and it's a super strong way of setting up what is a pretty good window of time for you to push in and go for some frags or just take a lot of space. This can be even more important if you're missing some smokes and stuff on your team, and you need to make up for it somehow and take space in other ways when you can't block off sightlines. You can at least play with your other utility in a much smarter and more clever way to capitalize on the characters that you did pick. I really recommend playing with 1 or 2 friends overall in Valorant. In unrated it feels a lot better, and in competitive it's almost essential in a way. It just helps so much with consistency, and finding these combos on the characters that you 2 or you 3 play a lot is super key to figuring out how to climb quickly. And right now, before ranked is out, this is a perfect time to learn all those tricks. Let me know your favorite combos in the comments below. Some of these will be a bit more obvious than the other ones. The nature of Valorant is that you have smokes, you have Molotovs, you have something that's kind of like a flashbang, you have something that blows stuff up or slows people, and those different aspects, that's about it. There's not too many more. Most abilities are variations of that to not have this game spiral out of control. But I hope you found a couple ones in here at least pretty flashy, because I do really like the Paint Chill and Fault Line one. That one is definitely my favorite one in here. Leave a like if you learned something new, and head to the comments and thumb up the best other combos that you see down there. I'll make sure to drop some hearts so you guys know that I'm checking out the comments as well. Alright, that's all. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you guys next time. Goodbye.